aware how our body is, relaxed, peaceful, anxious, fearful, whatever it is, we can breathe with it. And then we can sing breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free. I am free. I am free. Thank you for singing with us. Before we continue to sing some songs, we know that some friends have already prepared your written question. If you could please send them to questions and response assistant, so our sister and our friend can start to sort them out. And for those of you who would like to ask a question but haven't written them yet, you may do so while we sing some songs for you. We can sing one more song. Tag team, could you please share the song sheet? There's a request to sing a song in Spanish. Inspirando, Esperando. Could we have the Spanish song up, please? And Brother Blue, could you help us with the Spanish song?
Inspirando, expirando, inspirando, expirando. Yo me siento como una flor y tan fresco como el rocío. Yo soy sólido como una montaña y tan firme como la tierra. Yo soy libre, inspirando, expirando, inspirando, expirando. Soy como el agua que refleja lo que es bello y verdadero. Y yo siento que hay espacio muy dentro de mí. Libertad, libertad, libertad.
And the Vietnamese version. Quay về nương tựa hải đạo tư thân, chánh niệm là bụt soi sáng xa gần. Hơi thở là pháp bảo hộ thân tâm, năm uẩn là tăng phối hợp tinh cần. Please do the movement with us. Thở vào, thở ra là hoa tươi mát, là núi vững vàng, nước tình lặng chiếu không gian thênh thang. Thank you, dear Sangha, for offering your beautiful voices. Now we would like to invite Brother Min An to come up and introduce the Dharma teachers that help with the questions and responses today.
So dear respected Thai and dear Sangha, so nice to see you all again. It's me again. And I'm here to introduce the three people that you see sitting next to me. Of course, you've already met Brother Phap and Sister Dee, but I thought of a couple other fun facts. Brother Phap is, as I mentioned, a consummate tea master, and it's very unsurprising that he's here making tea for the panel. I've drank tea with Brother Phap very high in the mountains, and I've drank tea on the highway in tiny cars. So you can really count on him for making tea anytime you're with him, basically. And I thought of another fun fact for Sister Dee. I was reminded by a sister that Sister Dee is an excellent dancer. Now, you may have to come to a retreat at Deer Park in order to see it, but I was lucky enough to do a teen program with her at Deer Park a few years ago, and we did a really amazing dance number. So maybe sometime you can come to a big retreat at Deer Park and see Sister Dee do some amazing dance moves. And then to my immediate left, we have Sister Nghiem, who many of you have already met. You participated in this morning's letter writing activity. So Sister Nghiem, Sister True Pearl. That's True Pearl, not Trooper. Sister True Pearl, Sister Nghiem, was born in central Vietnam and immigrated with her family to the US when she was 11 years old. She was ordained in 2005 at Plum Village, France, and spent 14 years living at our center in Mississippi, Magnolia Grove Monastery, before moving to Deer Park last autumn. She takes a personal interest in advocating for a more inclusive Sangha, as well as a more inclusive world, and is one of the lead organizers of Deer Park's upcoming BIPOC retreat. She also enjoys tutoring her monastic sisters in English and playing ping pong. And she also tells me that despite her being only 4'11", she's an excellent basketball player, and she's apparently a real threat from the three-point line. So please join me all in welcoming these lovely panelists.
Thank you, brother, for your beautiful introduction. We know that many universities are having basketball competition right now in the United States. So if you're a basketball fan, thank you for attending the retreat and not watching basketball live. I have flowers for you. Thank you. So before we listen to three sounds of the bell, again, I'd like to invite all of us to ground ourselves in this present moment with stillness, calm, and relaxation in our body, and let this energy flow into our mind. We may place a hand on our abdomen to feel the rising and the falling of it, or we may place our right hand on our heart to be there for the beating of it as we listen to three sounds of the bell. Dear beloved Thầy, dear beloved community, today is Saturday, March 23rd in the year 2024, and we are sitting in the Ocean of Peace Meditation Hall at Deer Park Monastery for the At Home in the World International Online Retreat. Since the questions and responses are for our friends on Zoom, the format will be quite different than when we have for our friends on site. We invite our friends to please write your questions in the chat box. Questions related to your suffering, to your happiness, that are very deep in your heart, that you wish the monastics to share our experience with you. We know that a question, a good and beneficial question, doesn't need to be long, and many people can benefit greatly from your question. And we have received a number of these questions, and so we ask for your permission to allow us to filter them out, sort them out, so we could choose the ones that we consider or see as important, much needed, for the benefit of the community that is currently present here. Once our sister and our friend sort out these questions, they will send you a private message through text, through chat, asking if you are comfortable to ask this question live. And then we will pin you, we will spotlight you, and we will invite you to ask your question. I'm wondering if that is clear for our friends on Zoom. And we also ask for your understanding with the limited time. We have about an hour and 15 minutes, or an hour and 30 minutes maximum. So there is no way we can respond 50 questions. I think the maximum questions we can answer is maybe 7 to 10. Tomorrow we will have the affinity group consultation. And so far we receive, I think, almost 120 questions for 7 groups. And these questions are very, very powerful questions. So again, we ask for your understanding. If we are unable to answer your question today, we hope that there will be a chance you will receive your response. And sometimes, here, this is our experience. The answers are already within you. You just need a confirmation, an affirmation. That is why when you hear a response, you nod your head, you agree. It is because in you, you already have the answer. So thank you for your understanding with the limitation we have in this retreat. And I wonder, Sister, do we have any friends who are willing to ask the live questions based on the questions you already sorted out?
Hello,
Yes. So
panelists.
so if I may say one last thing, before you ask a question, you are invited to listen to one sound of the bell. Come back to your breathing, sit upright beautifully. And the monastics up here, we will answer each question, and we do our best not to have that question answered twice, because we know that there is a great need in you to ask questions. So there's no need to add on to an answer to a response that is already responded. Thank you, dear Sangha, for your understanding and support. Let us listen to one sound of the bell. Please kindly ask your question, dear friend.
Thank you. My name is Joshua, and my question to you comes from the bottom of my heart. I have a history of severe abuse, and as an adult, I've caused a lot of damage to other people. I find that I have immense difficulty in empathizing with other people and feeling their pain. And my question to you is, how can I gain the ability to empathize so that I stop causing damage to other people?
If I may repeat your question, please help to correct if my understanding is not correct. So you share that in your life you experienced a lot of abuse, and growing up as an adult, you harm many people. Is that correct?
Yes.
And now you would like to learn how to live better. Is that right? Or be
I
more
can't
concretely.
I can't feel the pain of other people. When they
Uh,
tell me something happened, it's like there's a block in me. And I really want to learn how to push past that and feel so that I can empathize with other people.
right, and now you cannot feel the pain from other people when they share with you. You are like
Yes,
numb. You are like
yes,
numb.
no.
You are like apathetic to their suffering. So how can you practice with that? I hope that is clear. Thank you so much, Joshua, for your question.
Dear beloved Thai, dear beloved community, thank you, dear friend, for being so genuine and courageous, for asking your question. Often we see ourselves as victims. Very few of us ever speak up and share that we are perpetrators. We are causing others pain. In your question also, there's a lot of wisdom. You said that in your young life, in earlier life, you experienced a lot of abuse. And then as you grew up, you caused others suffering. So this is about interbeing. This is in that, and that is in this. In the victim, there is the perpetrator. Those who caused you suffering had been victims of abuse. Generally, it's like that. It's most evident when you go to prison and you listen to people, prisoners, convicts. You will hear stories of horrible abuse, terrifying pain that they experienced in their childhood. And because we didn't know how to resolve that pain, that nightmare, it's haunted. We are haunted by all of that experiences. And whatever that the mind rehearses, it will manifest in the thoughts, speech, and bodily actions. Thus, the thoughts, the horrifying, the traumatic experiences will replay and manifest themselves in our own speech and bodily actions towards ourselves and towards others. And that's how a victim becomes a perpetrator. And also, as we go through a traumatic experience, at the moment, we often, the nervous system often will automatically respond by choosing the modality of either fight, flight, or freeze in order to survive. And as we pass the trauma, many of us actually, the coping mechanism remains even though the trauma has passed. So we continue to be in a fight or flight or freeze mode. And it's important for us to identify which mode that is predominant in us. So what I hear is that you actually have the freeze response in you. There's a numbness in the body, in the mind. There may be even an out-of-body experience. And that's usually when the trauma is so severe that the mind has to take off so that it doesn't have to feel the pain of the body. Sometimes people report that it's like they're floating above and they watch the body being tortured, being abused, but they don't feel anything. And so sometimes as we look back, we blame ourselves. Why did I run away? Why did I freeze? I should have fought back. But I think it's very important that we recognize that that is a wisdom of our nervous system. And the truth is that we are still alive. It was effective. That was the best response in the moment. But we also recognize that we are stuck in that pattern, that now either we keep fighting in our lives or we keep running away from relationships, from ourselves. We sabotage ourselves before there's a failing. We already do that beforehand. Or we are frozen from deep within. We speak, we talk we work, we build families, and yet we don't feel anything. So if you recognize that numbness, that out-of-body experience in you, the practice of just either to be able to hold your own hands, to feel the sensation of your heart beating, of the breath flowing in and out of your body. You can put your hand on a part of your body that feels safe or neutral, and you can be in touch with your body. You know, there are people who use razors to cut their hands and feet so that they feel something. So our practice of mindful breathing, of awareness of the body in the body, of being able to be in touch with nature, of deep relaxation, all of our practices are there actually to help us to be in touch, to reconnect with our body, to be safe in our body, so that we are not estranged or alienated by our own body. You see, you can say, I know you're there, my inner child. I know you coped by numbing, but and I also have added to that by running away from you, by reacting, uh, lashing out. But now I really want to be there for you, to love you, and to take care of you. And by practicing, that is the most convincing way to your wounded inner child that you are sincere, you want to care for him, for her, for them, so that gradually there you build trust with yourself, with your inner child, and you can experience more your body and not have to check out. So it is really about coming home to yourself, coming home to your inner child, being able to acknowledge the abuse and also to acknowledge your capacity to survive all these years, and to also acknowledge the pain you have caused others, and to do beginning anew, just like my sister shared this morning, to say, I'm very sorry. I have caused you pain, not because I'm evil or malicious, but hurt people. That is the fact. And so slowly you do beginning anew with yourself, with your inner child, with the perpetrator that you have become. And also you do beginning anew with the people that you have caused pain right inside you. They are very alive in you. And that will open up your heart for you to feel safe, to trust yourself again, so that you can feel the pain of others. Actually, you feel a lot of pain from others. That is why you have shut down, so you don't have to feel that pain. Okay? So it's more important that you develop trust and safety and connection. And then you are able to feel pain, but at the same time safe in yourself. Bless you, my dear. We have good faith in you. And thank you for choosing to practice. You're on the right path. Bless you. Be a soulmate to your inner child, okay? He's very beautiful. He's precious.
I would like to have a request for the tag team that when we respond to a question, if we could spotlight a friend or pin a friend so the Dharma teachers up here could see a friend when we respond. Thank you. Let us listen to one sound of the bell. dear friend. Please ask your question.
Hello, dear Sangha. Thank you for answering my question. I think, and I am going to read what I wrote because I get very emotional if I say it, but I feel like I'm very deeply fearful that my life will completely fall apart the deeper that I go inside me, because that I feel like deep within me is an actual endless pit of despair. And I don't know how I can trust that hurt inner child. And so I feel like I get scared to like practice or be with myself like deeper, um, because I can't trust the innermost part of me. Yeah, how do I deal with this fear?
Thank you, dear friend, for your question. I'd like to repeat. A friend here has a lot of fear when returning to herself, going deep into herself. So how can she practice without fear? There's a lack of trust, there's a fear. So how can she transform that so that she could go inward? Is that the question?
Yeah, like what if deep inside me I'm just sad and I'm not actually a hopeful, happy person?
What if deep down inside you are sad and that you're not a happy person and that's something that you are afraid to face?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the beautiful question.
Dear respected Thai, dear friend, what is your name?
Felicia. Felicia.
Ah, dear Felicia. Yeah, first I just want to acknowledge the aspect of non-fear in you to ask this question for us today and bring it out into the Sangha, because we all have despair, that pit of despair in us, and not all of us are able to be brave enough to ask and bring it out and share with others about it. So, and that for me is the kind of spark of yeah, something beyond just this idea that we are a separate self or this person or whatever it might be, that can be such a prison for us, and send us in these cycles of despair. At least in my own experience, I've seen that if I
Experiencia he
tell
sentido eso.
that if I tell myself this story,
Pues me digo esta cuenta.
somebody else is telling me the story. Just a moment, let's see if we get the sound back. It's okay? Okay. Yeah, that if I tell myself this story that I am this person, and you know, especially stories like I'm not a happy person, I'm not a joyful person, then it's kind of nutriment, kind of food for my consciousness, in my consciousness, which is actually conditioning my body to be unhappy. and And conversely, if we just only engage in positive thinking, then we actually don't. Sometimes we can we miss the deeper insight into our condition as we are in this present moment. So I practice as Thai taught us to not get caught in any kind of sign or not to reduce myself or anyone else to a perception, like you are this or you are that. In the world of perceptions, there is no peace. There's always making this thing better than that thing, or this thing worse than that thing, discrimination and judgment towards ourselves, towards others. And so, yeah, I practice in my better moments to let go of those perceptions that I've accumulated through conditioned thinking, through my speech as well, and through my actions. It's a lot. It's not that it's so easy to do. You just go like that. It's a training that we do. We start with the breath, and then embodied breath, right? Not an imagination of the breath, but actually the visceral experience of the breath. And then we see that that's always changing, and then we start to see that our heart rate is also always changing, and our the circulation in our body is also changing, our digestion is changing. We start to see, wow, everything's changing. And if we try to find something that's permanent, we can't do it. And so our teacher said, long live impermanence. And we in the Plum Village tradition, we practice to see joy when we see the impermanence of things. So when a situation, whether it's a situation in society of injustice, we know that that situation is not permanent, that it's subject to change. And we learn to see our body in that way, and our perceptions and the perceptions of others, and that's what gives all hope possible. Because when we hurt someone or we do something unskillful, if it would last forever like that, then we would be always in this hell realms of despair in our mind. I know coming off the last question, I was reflecting on all the ways that have been unskillful in the past, and how I continue to be unskillful and create harm for myself and for others. And I see a lot of it is based in just my deep aspiration, and then not realizing that sometimes I'm too attached to that aspiration or that idea. And then if I don't realize it in the world, that somehow I will go back to that place of despair that I've experienced, and that's a false promise. That's created in our mind, and that is actually a real a danger of getting too attached to an idea or a project. So my brothers and sisters always remind me of my unskillfulness. I'm very lucky. I live in a sangha, and I get reminded all the time. And yeah, I was just thinking, I'm sitting up here next to two sisters who are huge heroes of mine and amazing practitioners in their own right. And I learn a lot from both of them all the time, every day. And so, that goes for all the brothers and sisters in the Sangha. They're always reminding me, and then I make a mistake again, and then I try to learn, and so forth. So that's the beauty of living in spiritual community. So that's the second part that I will suggest, is find community. We are meant to live in community, and you're very lucky that there's communities like Plum Village. I don't say you have to come to Plum Village or Deer Park or any of our centers. I'm not trying to plug. I am trying to plug monastic life, but I'm a little bit biased, as my elder brother often says. So I love this path. I think it's easier to be a monastic. I always remind myself, whatever I do something unskillful, it would have been 10 times more unskillful if I were not a monk, if I were out there. And I would have much less support for transforming allowing the transformation and healing to happen in myself. So I practice gratitude every day for the community and for the Buddha and for the Dhamma that our teacher transmitted. And I try to learn it more deeply and improve, and know that even though I wake up in the morning and I say, 24 brand new hours are before me, I vow to live them in mindfulness and look at all beings with eyes of compassion, that I know that I will not always be mindful, and I will not always look at beings with eyes of compassion. So it's a sense of not being caught in perfection. Mostly I find when we end up in depression or despair, it's because of a kind of perfectionism. You know, we vacillate between one extreme and the other. So letting go of that and allowing the beauty of all the imperfections to just come forth. And you are a tapestry of imperfections, and I am as well, and all of us here are. And in the beauty of our unskillfulness, we somehow muddle our way forward, right, with more insight, more understanding. And I think it's mainly the core of love and understanding, like really trusting in the love, kind of unconditioned love, that doesn't take any form or particular sign or perception, but it's actually, anytime you think you've got that love and you can point to it, then it's already dead. So it has to be that's touching the unconditioned is like that. You go deeper and deeper, and you see it's always alive. It's like we are more than just human. We are more than just this body, and that is a fact. I mean, we see that we are stardust, right? And we are a composition of all things. So I know you'll find your way. And so signlessness, practice of signlessness of our perceptions. Don't trust so much in your perceptions. Be in your body and recognize what's going on, and find community, practice in community. Come stay with us at Deer Park for a while. Yeah. Good luck.
Yes, dear friend, please ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Um, so my question is, I've experienced a lot of trauma since childhood and at other various points in my life. So I deal with a lot of uncomfortable feelings, just everyday uncomfortable feelings. Um, Either related to trauma, or I just don't want to do the work today and it makes me uncomfortable and it's hard to deal with because haven't dealt with my trauma. So my question is, I'm just going to read my question. How can mindfulness help me address uncomfortable feelings and reduce reliance on distractions like social media, the internet, and mobile games, which are impacting my work, social life, and spiritual well-being?
Thank you, dear friend, for your question. If I may repeat. So you experience a lot of trauma in your life, and you also have difficulty dealing with uncomfortable feeling. So your question is, how can mindfulness help you to deal with your uncomfortable feeling instead of distracting yourself with social media or other forms of distraction? Is that correct? Okay, thank you. I guess it's my turn. No choice. Okay. I will do my best to share with you. Thank you so much for asking your question. It seems like in this retreat, the topic of trauma comes up quite often. And it's not only in this retreat, it's in this present day. And thanks to many researchers, friends like you open up to share about your trauma, that we have a better understanding of what it can do to our body and to our mind. And so how can mindfulness help us to deal with the uncomfortable feelings and not to lose ourselves in distraction, such as using social media or driving endlessly on the street, eating whenever we're not hungry. So there are many forms of distraction. It sounds very similar to the question, the previous question, how can we come back to ourselves without being so fearful? Yesterday, Sister D talked about the 4 types of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and mixed feelings. And do we know that 80% of the time in our life, the neutral feeling is present for most of us? And for some of us, it's that uncomfortable feeling. So the art of a practitioner is to transform the neutral feeling, the uncomfortable feeling, into a pleasant feeling. And we have many ways to do that. So first, I highly recommend you to download the Plum Village app to your iPhone or to your computer and set the bell so that it invites every 15 or 30 minutes if your environment allows you. And every time we hear this bell, we really stop all of our thinking, all of our physical movement, and tell yourself, may I ask, what is your name?
My name's Valerie.
Yes, and tell yourself, Valerie, you are alive. Valerie, smile. Just one word. That sound of the bell lasts about 30 seconds. And if we do that every single day, which is really the practice of true diligence, consistency, then over time, that uncomfortable feeling turn into a pleasant feeling. Because perhaps before that sound of the bell, you were very uncomfortable in your feeling. But thanks to that bell, you just say to yourself silently, Valerie, it's okay, I'm here. That's one way. Another way is to trust the Buddha within. All of us, we have that seed of Buddhahood, that seed of mindfulness. So if it's too much for you to handle your uncomfortable feeling, you may say to yourself, Buddha, please take care of this uncomfortable feeling for me. And you can say, breathing in, the Buddha is taking care of this uncomfortable feeling. Breathing out, I don't have to take care of it. Anything that is difficult, let the Buddha handle it. The Buddha in you, not the statue Buddha outside. This brings me back a story when Thay was in Korea many years ago. Before a session of walking meditation, there were so many people with their cameras taking pictures of Thay. And he knew it would be very difficult for him to do the walking meditation. So he practiced just invite the Buddha in him to walk for him. And when we invite the Buddha to do it, the Buddha does it very well. The Buddha is not only a he, is not only a she, the Buddha is also they. So Buddha, please take care of this uncomfortable feeling for me. And when the Buddha does it with so much care, compassion, and gentleness. The Buddha practices non-violence. The Buddha practices non-discrimination and non-judgment. You have a Buddha inside, and so do I, and so does everybody here. And we're not making good use of the Buddha. We often invite the Mara or the enemy inside us to take care of things. Or who in your life do you love? Who in your life that cares about you? You call that person's name out and ask them to be there with you when you experience uncomfortable feeling. Don't invite anger. Don't invite sadness. Invite mindfulness, and you can say, Valerie, mindfulness, please be here with me right now. Just take that deep breath. Invite mindfulness to be with the uncomfortable feeling, because over the past so many years, you invited uncomfortable feelings to be with your uncomfortable feeling. Maybe that is the reason why it didn't work. So, plan A doesn't work, we try plan B. Plan B doesn't work, there's always plan C. You have up to 24 plans in the alphabet. So set that positive mindset and make fun of it. I mean, not make fun of it, but add humor to it. Talk to your uncomfortable feeling as if you're talking to your pet. You have a cat or a dog? There you go. You don't hit your cat or your dog. We don't fight with our emotion. Some people say, I'm fighting my depression. How can you heal your depression when you fight? Instead of saying, I'm fighting my depression, I'm fighting my uncomfortable feeling, we can change the word, I am taking care. I'm holding it. I'm embracing it. I caress it, but not fighting it. Because fighting will not lead to anywhere. It is only through loving. Love, you know the song, The Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston? Yeah, I can sing, but I don't know the whole lyrics. But yes, love is the most powerful force, the most powerful energy. And yet, most of the time, we use that uncomfortable feeling or that negative feeling to take over our life and not love. So first is to download that Plumvedish app. Second is to invite the Buddha in you to take care of the feeling. And third, talk to your uncomfortable feeling as if you're talking to your pet, to a loved one, to your best friend. Thank you, Valerie, victorious Valerie, for asking the question.
Dear Tay, dear Sangha, my question is, how do overachiever knows when it's enough and be at peace? I always feel that I need to do more. I am not good enough. I need to prove myself. I need to protect other. I need to do more things. I need to be good examples. I need to achieve. How do I know when it's enough and be at peace?
Dear friends, thank you for your question. Tag team, could you please pin a friend? So a friend asked us, how do I know when it is enough and that I can be at peace? Many times she wanted to prove herself, she wanted to do more, she wanted to be better. So how can she know when is enough and at peace with it? Thank you so much for your question.
Dear beloved Thầy, dear beloved spiritual family, what is your name, my dear?
My name is Jane.
Jane. Thank you for your question. There's a Chinese character for enough, and when I learned it, I was very happy. The Chinese character for enough, it has this character for mouth, of the mouth, and then a straight line down, like the body, and then a line, a horizontal line, like an arm, and then 2 lines for legs. If you got a mouth or a head, a body, just 1 arm, you don't even have 2 arms, and 2 legs, you are enough. And the Chinese character for enough, tuk, that one, it also means feet. So it has 2 meanings. One is enough and one is the feet. So if you look at yourself, you still have 2 feet, you are enough. And 2 feet are representative of the so many parts, many things in yourself, in your life that you have. If you were to write them all down, it will take pages and pages. And you will see that, wow, I have more than enough. I am sure you were not born to think that you were not enough. But in your childhood, as you grew up, there were those who made you feel that you weren't enough. I had a friend in college, and her father always told her, "You are so stupid. You're so stupid." She dropped something. He told her she was stupid. That when she went to college, everything and anything, she would say, "I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid." And I wasn't a practitioner, but I felt quite uncomfortable with that. So I said to her, "Linda, don't keep saying that to yourself. Don't put yourself down like that." So one person told you that you were enough. And that person may be dead, may be living very far away from you. And yet you have internalized that person's voice, that person's view, or those people's voice and views. And now you mouth those words and you think those thoughts all the time. And it has become a habit. It has become a personality. And of course, a personality will lead to a destiny. So in that way, awareness, whenever you say to yourself, "Gosh, I'm so stupid, I'm not enough, I need to do more," you just breathe, just like my sister was saying, and just say, "Jane, I'm here for you. I still have a head and beautiful hair too, by the way. I have beautiful eyes. I have a beautiful nose. A beautiful face. I have 2 arms. I have 2 legs and a very loyal body that picks me up every day, even though when I put myself down again and again, and yet my body heals itself and helps me to get up and go forward every day." So recognize the things that you have instead of the things that you have not. And just to name them, call them and say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, eyes. Thank you, fingers. Thank you, this talent and that talent. And learn to say, my dear Jane, I'm here for you. I love you. I've learned to do that for myself. I love you. When I'm very tired, I would sit still, I would lie down, or wherever I am, I just pause and check in and say, thank you so much for carrying the burden of my pain, my physical pain, my emotional pain. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. I love you so much. And it feels strange at first to say that you love yourself, but we seek that in others our whole life. But it will never feel real when people tell us that they love us, because we don't trust it, we don't feel it in ourselves. But if you keep telling yourself, Jane, help me to love you, help me to treasure you just as you are. You don't need to be an inch taller. You don't need to be anything more. Just to be who you are and recognize that and celebrate that. And you do that every day. And at one moment you will see you are more than enough, my dear. And you have more than enough. Okay? And another practice is to just walk in nature. Walk barefooted in nature. Be a child of Mother Earth. The earth loves you a lot. So lately, when I experience physical pain in my body, as I exercise, it's still cold, so I take off my shoes, but I still have my socks on, and I'll stand on the earth, on the ground, and not on cement floor or something, on the earth. And as I exercise, I say quietly to myself, as I breathe in, I entrust myself to the earth. And as I breathe out, I say, and she entrusts herself in me. So it's the same practice that my sister was sharing about taking refuge in the Buddha, the Buddha in us. So now Mother Earth is also very concrete. She's always there. So we entrust herself to her, and we see that she gives us unconditionally, and she loves us unconditionally. And we can touch that quality in ourselves, that whatever we are, whether in that moment we are a flower, an iris, or a rose, or just simply a wildflower hidden somewhere, we are still loved. We still come from the earth. So I love the practice of touching the earth, either by prostrating on the earth, or by walking meditation, or by sitting, or by standing on the earth. I'm in touch with that quality of unconditional love. And I know that it's also in me, because my whole body, the solid organs are of the earth element. So I have that capacity. Okay, so be a soulmate to yourself. Call your name and say, I'm here. I love you, Jane, and I am more than enough. And you practice that day by day, and Mother Earth will also show you the way. Bless you, my dear.
Hi. My question is,
if you've been hurt repeatedly in the past by the same person, how do you find it in yourself to forgive if you're afraid of getting hurt again? Is the solution that you sort of just have to be open to the pain, or you have to move past the pain?
It's like your question is about forgiveness. So someone hurt you in the past, and now you want to forgive that person? And how can you, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So should you move past, should you open to that pain again? Or should you just pass that pain, right? Go past that pain. Is that your question?
It's more like I'm scared of getting hurt again. So at what point is it like, is forgiving them just me saying like, oh, it's okay for you to hurt me again?
Dear friend, what is your name?
Shruti. It's like a shrew drinking tea, shrew tea.
Juvi.
Yeah.
Judy. Okay. Hmm. I was just reflecting on how there's a kind of machine in each of us that has this kind of repeated action, just continues like automatic mode. In neuroscience, they call it kind of zombie cells, and you have neurons that just do these repeated actions, which is very helpful, like making our heart beat. If you had to think about beating your heart, it's not sure you would still be alive. And the same mostly is true of our breathing, but with mindfulness, we practice to be aware of our breath instead of just let it happen automatically. And that's why it's so beautiful to practice mindfulness of breathing, because we start to release that machine element in our physiology that also causes us to kind of keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I noticed in my own life, when I spend too much time on the computer or doing these kind of automatic things, that it's also a conditioning of my mind, and so I can engage in repeated actions without being aware that there's real pain being experienced by myself, first of all by myself, but also by the other person. So I think having compassion to understand that that's a part of our makeup is a starting place to see that if we're not careful, that machine in us, it can take over our mind and cause this kind of automatic action, which just causes suffering and pain. And understand that person who is caught in that cycle can be suffering a lot. Is a person in a lot of pain. So that opens the heart of your compassion for that person. You start to see, oh, okay, that person is someone who's suffering, rather than someone who's just a perpetrator, someone who's inflicting harm on others. So that's always the first thing that I try to do, whether it's something happening at a global scale, around the world, violent conflicts in Gaza or Ukraine or in Africa or here in the United States, right? All kinds of violence that are continued in different ways within our own, society here in the U.S. I look at it as a manifestation of a store consciousness, which is also part of what makes up my own consciousness. It's not separate. And so I'm also contributing to it. And that also means that I also can transform it. So I can bring mindfulness to it and I can stop. So I find it very helpful not to respond to like with like. So when somebody does something, that I feel is a little bit aggressive, then I try to find a way, like to joke or go like make light of it, or somehow change the peg, change the situation, so it doesn't. Because I notice if it just escalates if you just respond, you react in the automatic way to the situation. It's like throwing gasoline on the fire. It's like now you have two people involved in the fire. So you're angry, that person's angry, and you're just making the whole thing more intense. And I don't always do that, but I try to find creative ways. And that's also something I see that we share in community. We have different ways that we've learned to respond to different situations, and it's kind of like a toolbox. You hear from the community like, oh, how do you deal? And then sometimes with the same person, it's like, oh, how do you approach that person? Because we always want to be able to come close to each other and have more understanding, but sometimes we know some of us, we all have habit energies, and it's not easy to embrace those. So how do we find skillful ways to to learn to adapt, and then we're in a position where we can actually bring about transformation in that person. I think my parents, especially both my parents, I just never imagined they would embrace this practice, but I just kept at it for 20 years now as a monk. And slowly I've seen how they've transformed. Just they don't have to do much practice, but just they come to the monastery because they want to see me, and then they see the monastics, and then my brothers and sisters, and then they feel something here. And so it's kind of like we say in the tradition that it's like you walk through the meadow and your sleeves become saturated with the dew automatically. You don't have to make any effort. So by associating with those who are on a spiritual path, we absorb it in a way that I find is much more complete and whole than just reading a book, or even just putting into practice what I'm saying. Somehow there's something about just being in this, what the Buddha called a field of merit, which is a sangha. The community is, we say, field of merit. It's a manifestation of many, many generations of ancestral teachers practicing and looking deeply. So Thai is not just one teacher. We don't ever look at our teacher as one teacher, but he is part of an ancestral lineage, and he is carrying on that lineage. And he often said that the ancestors have already prepared everything. Thai just has to play the role. And I see when I look at the world like that, then I can let go and not try to impose myself. In my better moments, I can do that. But sometimes the mechanical mind still comes up, and I feel defensive and want to react. So I think starting with ourselves is the best way. And then the way that we respond will bring more understanding to the other person. It's very interesting that that sharing this morning in the beginning anew is so wonderful. The one friend who's, I think, professor of the dissertation, heading the PhD, and she shared about how she transformed the seed of suffering she had towards her mentor, her advisor for her PhD. And then when she went to meet her the next time, it was like her mentor said, it's like you're a different person, and suddenly opened up and shared her own suffering. That is so true. That is, I think we've all experienced that on the spiritual path. That if we do the work ourselves, that we actually, what we think is a situation outside of ourselves is actually more inside ourselves. It's about how we transform inside of ourselves. And then we actually have this incredible power to transform the world around us. Not through imposing or coercing, but rather through this more subtle inner transformation in ourselves, and especially transforming the way we respond to adverse situations. So that's how when I feel solid in my practice and I have energy, then I see I'm capable of doing that. But I know also when I don't get enough sleep, or if I feel a little bit jet lagged or something like that, that I'm not, that I can't always realize that. But that I see is what works in a lasting way in my relationships.
Before this question is asked, I'd like to ask our sister who helped to select the question, is there a written question that you find it very needed for us to respond, but a friend is not comfortable to ask? Then maybe you can give it to us and we can take a look at it. It's also nice to create that opportunity. Yeah. Yes, dear friend, please ask your question.
Oh, okay. Hello. Um, I hope my dog doesn't bark. My question is, and I hope maybe more than one monastic can answer this question. What is your most humbling moment as a monastic? And I ask this because I think part of walking this path is to handle our suffering, but to also become a better person. But sometimes I think I'm better than other people because I'm trying to become a better person. And this is really challenging for me to, I don't know, handle. So I'm wondering if you can share a humbling moment on your paths as monastics.
Yes, so the question is, please share with me your humbling moment as being a monastic. Based on my understanding, it means that an experience that you face where you see your own mistake, and then you make the determination to be a better person as a monastic or as a practitioner. Is that correct?
Yes, and just the role and the importance of humility on the path.
Thank you, Alison, for your question. I know your name because you're in my family. Or I can read your mind. No, I'm just kidding. So I'd like to respond to this question. And then hopefully my two siblings can also share if time allows. Earlier, Brother Min An introduced me as one of the monastics who have the aspiration to make our Sangha more inclusive. And then hopefully through that, I can, there's more inclusive word. So I'd like to take this opportunity to share with the Sangha my weaknesses, my mistakes. I had the great fortune to go home and take care of my mom in 2010 because she was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 2. And right away, when I heard the word cancer and my mother, I thought that tomorrow she would die. So there was a lot of fear, grief, sadness taking place when I received that news. And I was there with her for all the chemotherapies, for all the radiation sessions, the acupuncture sessions, and the surgeries. And at that time, I was not aware of my implicit bias, my own racial discrimination, even though I'm a person of color, but in me, there is this anti-blackness. So the day that I took my mom to go see the oncologist for the first time to discuss chemotherapy sessions, I was so disappointed when I saw a black doctor who was quite heavy in weight. And at that moment, I lose faith in him. I didn't have trust. And I concluded that my mom would not be under good care because of this black doctor. And I just brushed that thought off, thinking that, I've been a nun for, at that time, 5 years. I love people. I don't think I have discrimination. I love all people. But after the murder of George Floyd, I knew I still have so much to learn. I recognized that that was my own implicit bias. And a year later, my mom's health did not improve. She was admitted to the hospital, and I wanted to change doctor. And this time it was a white doctor. And I had so much trust in the white doctor. There was this inner voice telling me that my mom's health will be better because she is under the care of white doctor. And I could feel the joy, the happiness in my body. But my mom's situation did not improve. Her health declined tremendously. She was so thin, 80 pounds at that time, in the hospital after 1 month. And so one day, the white doctor came in. His name, Stephen Bash. That was his name. See, for some reason, I remember his name, but I don't remember the other doctor's name. You see my own implicit bias. And I have to be very honest with this. And I hope that all of us here can be honest with ourselves. And he said to me, "Dear sister, I'm sorry, there's nothing much I can do to help your mom. She can leave the hospital and enter hospice care." And I accepted it with so much lightness. But then I asked myself, if this statement comes from a black doctor, will I accept it? Will I think that he's not highly educated? But with this white doctor, I trusted. I highly praise him. And from that point on, I humble myself. I'm determined to see my own implicit bias, to take care of this anti-blackness inside of me, and to recognize it, and to change my way of thought. That what we think as normal, it can be so detrimental. If we think white people are smarter, highly educated, richer, that's very detrimental. That it means that we put down other people who are not white. And all of us, we have to be honest with ourselves and humble ourselves, whether we are monastics, order of interbeing members, lay practitioners. If we recognize that and we humble ourselves, we can be open and learn to understand and to heal ourselves. So that was a powerful teaching for me as a monastic sister. But I need to humble myself so I can open to learn from other people's experience, to learn from my own thought, and to see that everybody is a Buddha to be. Because I know there is a lot of anti-Blackness in the world and also in the BIPOC community. And where there is like this loving care, understanding, inclusivity in the BIPOC community, then we can help to take care of one another. And through that, we can heal ourselves. That is the collective power of practice, of coming together as a spiritual family. So thank you, Alison, for asking that question. Dear friend, you may ask your question.
Dear respected Thầy, dear Sangha, hello brothers and sisters. My name is Hương, and I'll just read my question. I just want to ask, like, I find romantic love is difficult. So I have a few relationships before, and whenever it ended, it hurt so much and took me a long time to heal. And although whenever being single, I feel really at ease and calm, sometimes a bit lonely, but still can enjoying life. And for other kind of relationship like family, friendship, or work, it was normal for me. But whenever I enter a relationship, even now, I find myself constantly anxious. So I see a lot of attachment, anxiety, expectation, and fear. So my response would be like always try to do it right, or always afraid that okay, maybe they will leave. Even during this retreat, I could bring my mind to the body and be present for some time during the practice. But just seconds later, the thoughts came back. Like I find it really easy to come back. And I feel that I would like also sabotage all the relationships if I have this pattern. So just want to see why is it so scary and difficult, at least to me, and is there a way to overcome it?
So dear respected Sangha, I would like to repeat your question. You are scared to be in a romantic relationship. It makes you feel fearful, you're anxious, and every time a relationship doesn't work, it takes you a long time to heal, right? And so what can you do, right, to to overcome that fear. Is that right?
Yes.
Just be a monastic.
I
I'm just
thought
kidding.
about that.
Yes, so basically that's her question. Thank you.
Dear beloved Thầy, dear spiritual family, dear Em Phương, thank you for your question. You know, when I came to this country, I was 17 and my brother was 14. And our third foster family, my dad, at that time he was married to my mom, my foster mom, and she was the sixth wife. And as I went to college, they divorced. They got a divorce, and then he married his high school sweetheart. So that was his seventh wife. And he died in that, during that marriage. And I really believe he didn't go on to the eighth wife because he was too old and too sick. So we can, actually many of us experience this with boyfriends, girlfriends, partners. You enter a relationship with a brand new person with new hopes and aspirations. And then sooner or later, you begin to question yourself. Wow, how is this person is exactly like the person before? How is it that I end up in the same situation? So, and I think of an analogy. It's like an eraser, to wipe the blackboard or the whiteboard. When it is smeared with some ink or something, and then when you use that same eraser to erase a new board, but the ink that is on it will smear the new board, one board after another. So it is our own mind. The same way of thinking does the same way of speaking, the same way of behaving that will be repeated in the new relationship. Maybe when it's new, you're on your best behavior, you're all fresh, you're positive. But as soon as you become comfortable in the relationship, you think the same way, you speak the same way to the person. Maybe you self-sabotage, you put yourself down, you are nervous, you are needy. You means all of us. It's not one person. But we are too demanding or aggressive, whatever, that the eraser that we have, the stain that we have, we will repeat exactly the same way. And so you end up in the same relationship. Even if that person doesn't have that tendency, we will turn that person into that tendency. It's like if we have insecurity and jealousy, and we keep questioning the other person, who are you talking to? Why are you home so late? Something. We make the other person, or the other person makes us insecure. And before we know it, there's not that trust, that freshness in the relationship anymore. And we'll end up liking somebody else, or that person will prefer to be with somebody else because there's not trust and joy in this relationship. So our practice is to take care of that eraser, our mind, our pain, our sorrow, our disappointment, the expectations in ourselves, and learn to be a friend, a soulmate to ourselves, first foremost. To remember to ourselves, our body, to respect and cherish our body, to not put our body out there, to be used, to be abused again and again, so that we can gain some kind of acknowledgement or affirmation or love, quote unquote. So we learn to respect ourselves. You know, one very memorable event that took place for me, I was in the presence of our teacher, Thai, and it was a lot of joy and depth. And our teacher had to go to his room. I think he was getting something. And I saw Thai, he went in his room and he came back out. And then another sister was on the way, and I saw her coming, and Thai saw her. And you know what? Thai actually turned around and walked back in his room. And I was shocked. I always thought that Thai would always be there for his students. And he was on the way out, and yet when he saw the sister, he actually walked in and he closed the door. So when sister walked in and didn't see Thai, she left. And after that, Thai came out and talked with me. But with time, I understood. Even Thai had to protect himself. You know, you are open to others. You care for others. But you can only do that when you know how to be there for yourself, to have to know your own limitation, to respect your own health, your body, that you are not always out there, but you are not fresh or you're not safe. That's also the same question for the other young woman who said, you know, somebody who hurts you again and again. We try to be understanding, we try to begin anew, but ultimately we have to protect ourselves. If the person will not change, the person is aggressive, abusive, we have to protect ourselves. You don't have to put yourself out there to be hurt, to be put down, to be abused. So Thai did that, and Thai taught me a very deep lesson that I need to know my limitation, I need to respect my boundaries, and there are times I will say no to people. And when you learn to do that for yourself, and Phương, you will not need so much the affirmation from others. You can say, you know, I love you, I'm here for you. I am my own soulmate. And from that very place, you will, if you choose to be in a relationship, you will attract and you will choose somebody who's able to be there for themselves, who's a soulmate to themselves, and not somebody who will be there and abuse you, take you for granted, and hurt you. You see? So take care of that eraser, take care of that mind, that wound in yourself. Be comfortable with yourself. Be okay to sit alone, to go to a movie alone. I went to a movie alone a lot of time when I was in college. Some of my friends thought that was, weird, but thankfully I thought it was fine. And thankfully I had that in me so that I can be who I am today, you see? So it's really okay to go to a restaurant by yourself, to go to a movie by yourself, to not go out on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, and to read a book, to play a guitar, to walk, to take to go on a hike. It's really okay to be with yourself and to be your own soulmate. So you don't end up being like my foster father who's passed away. So all respect to my dad for having given me such a beautiful teaching. Bless you, Em. Thank you.
So dear Sangha, it is now 5:40 California time, and the tech team informed me that we have 3 more questions. 2 more. Okay, we can do 2 more. Yes. Let us listen to one sound of the bell. Yes, dear friend.
Thank you. Erica, bowing in. So the question I wrote has to do with if I try to use beginning anew and my partner is not able to, how long do I keep trying before I say it's enough? I need to protect myself. And Sister D, what you spoke with in the last share was deeply what I have experienced in my experience. I abandoned myself thinking I was responsible for my family's happiness. I did not know I was abandoning myself until my body told me. And my body eventually said, I need to do something different. And so I started using mindfulness to come back to myself and listen. And when I started to express, to listen to my body and my needs and understand and express my needs, using, although beginning anew is new for me, essentially beginning a new strategy. It wasn't reciprocated. And I don't know if ending a 22 marriage, if I should have tried more. It's, yeah.
Dear beloved family, so Erica asked the question that if she tries to do beginning anew with her partner, and when is it enough? When is it enough that you keep trying and you see the person doesn't want to do beginning anew or there's no change. And in the process, you also discover that you have abandoned yourself in a way to compromise yourself for the other person. So and also you've discovered that your body pays for that and it speaks up finally. It wakes you up to that abandonment that you weren't aware of. Okay, so when is it enough?
Dear respected Thầy, dear beloved community, in Buddhism we talk a lot about compassion, but the Buddha also spoke of compassion must go along with wisdom. Từ bi và trí tuệ. And if we misunderstood the Buddha's teaching, it can be very detrimental. So whatever decision that we make, it is based on compassion and wisdom. And this compassion will protect us, will let us know when it is enough, because it contains insight. We know that being in an abusive relationship can take a high toll for our body, our happiness, and our mind, and not just for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren. There have been people who would rather say, I have been in this marriage for almost 30 years, than ending it. Because they just want to save face. They don't want to feel that guilt or that shame that society put on them or their loved ones put on them. We all deserve to be happy in relationship, whether that is being a monastic. We want to be happy, whether that is being single, whether that is being in a marriage. We want to feel that happiness, that joy, so that whenever we are away, we have this deep longing of coming home. Yes, home is where the heart is, but we also have a physical home. If after a long day of work, we're driving home, stuck on traffic, we sing, happiness is here and now. Yes, it can help. But then we know that in 1 hour we'll be home and we feel tired. And it's like this every day for the last so many years. And you have done your best to change the situation. But I feel that, in order for the situation to change, we need collaboration. It's just too much for one person to change the situation, and nobody can do that. So it's important that we give yourself the mental space and the physical space if needed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But whatever decision that we make, it is based on compassion and wisdom. And when we know that that person suffers, we don't feel good about it. We don't say, you deserve it. If that person needs our help, we will be there for them. And at the same time, like what Sister D shared, we will need to protect ourselves, to have that boundaries. Because we've been in that situation for so many times already. So listen to your body more. Listen to your body. What does it want? How does it feel when you are safe? So instead of right now, you are so focused on your partner, take time to focus on yourself. In your meditation, do self-compassion, metta meditation toward yourself. When you are eating, really savor every morsel of your food and express gratitude to yourself for chewing your food mindfully. Send that peaceful and loving energy to yourself so that when the day comes that you need to make a decision, it is based on that peacefulness, compassion, and wisdom. I don't think the Buddha wants all of us to be stuck in a relationship that is abusive. That is not compassion. That is not the teaching that the Buddha wants us to do. So when we hear the word compassion, please remember the word wisdom. When we are being present for other people, check our body. Is our nervous system regulated? How is our heartbeat? Do we have enough mental space to speak to this person? And all of us have the right to say no when that person requests to speak to us. And we can say no, at times gently, at times firmly. If many times we say no in a gentle voice, that person doesn't get it, then we can say it in a firmer way. But we know that that compassion is in there, that wisdom is there. And we can write letter to that person and we don't have to send it. After we write it, we can just keep it in a box. Or we can just burn it. And we also remind ourselves the Buddha nature in that person. Because for sure, there is still little kindness in that person. Like the sutra that we read yesterday, for someone whose mind is not kind, whose words are not kind, whose actions are not kind, this person suffers greatly and they need help. And this help, it doesn't have to come from you only. This person might need professional help from other people beside you. So ask other people in your family to help that person. So the burden is less on your shoulders, and so that you could have more time and space to really take care of yourself, so that this body can be more relaxed, the heart rate can be more peaceful, and the breathing can be more deep and natural. Thank you so much for your question. The tech team informed us that there is no more question, and because of the time, we would like to end the session of questions and responses today. Thank you so much, dear sisters, brothers, and our beloved Sangha for your presence this afternoon for a very profound and deep questions and responses. May you be peaceful and happy in every moment of your life. Let us listen to 3 sounds of the bell. I would just like to make a short announcement for our friends in the Vietnamese and Chinese speaking groups. Tonight you will have Dharma sharing at 7:30 p.m. California time. And for our English and Spanish groups, you have personal practice tonight. Again, if you are Vietnamese speaking or Chinese speaking and joining the Dharma sharing groups, please meet with your family at 7:30 tonight, California time. After this, Brother Namshak and myself will be available for you to ask any logistical questions about the retreat. When we hear the next sound of the bell, let us stand up, bow to one another. Thank you.
Dear Sangha, please stay for a while. I would like to make one more announcement. So tomorrow at 5:45 a.m. California time, we'll have the 5 mindfulness training transmission ceremony. So for those who will receive the training or want to renew your practice of the 5 mindfulness